This is Caleb Barney with Russell Real Estate, and today I wanted to read an article that I thought was, you know, it, I agreed with a lot of it. It was written by Brian Davis. It was published on BiggerPockets on their website, and the title of the article is "Set Yourself Up for Success Before Investing: What a Truly Strong Financial Foundation Looks Like." And a lot of this, he agrees with very conservative financial gurus, advisors, personalities, whatever. Specifically, Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, a lot of those types of personalities there too. And what Brian wants us to understand here is that, yes, real estate investments can help you build wealth, but that doesn't mean that you're ready to be a landlord. If you're keeping properties, which I like long-term rentals and short-term rentals too. There's a little more risk with short-term rentals, but either way, I like those options better than flipping houses because flipping, you own your own job there and you are taking on a lot more risk at first. And while the reward may seem much greater because you're getting a big chunk of cash at the end, you are taxed pretty heavily on it as opposed to owning, a long-term rental where you get a lot of different tax benefits. So he goes on to point out that there's more to just having the down payment, basically, when you're thinking, oh, okay, I just need 20% down, or, now you could actually house hack. You could do up to a 4-unit property. So you could do a single family, or obviously you could do duplex, triplex, or quad, and you can do 5% down, which is pretty cool. But there are going to be closing costs associated with that as well. That includes lender fees, title and escrow fees, government recording fees, depending on if you're paying for your buyer's agent or if the seller is paying for the buyer's agent. You'll still have to pay for an inspection. There's a lot of different costs that would be not included in that down payment. Any initial repairs that you might want to make or need to make. And then the lender is going to require that you have cash reserves as well, because they don't want you buying a property where you're so cash strapped that, say you were planning on renting it out, you don't find a tenant that first month. Well, you need to have enough reserves in the bank, liquid, to make sure that you can actually take that on if you don't have that tenant in place right away. So there's a lot of other things that are involved before you even get started in investing in real estate. So what he calls pre-investing steps, he actually has 6 or 7 pre-investing steps that I wanted to go over. First one is to stabilize your income and expenses. So basically, if you don't earn a stable income, hey, pick up more jobs, change jobs, do whatever you can, get your income up and get it stable. On the same token, on the other side though, I would say is a lot of people have no control from what they spend. Like literally, yes, they actually have control, but as far as willpower, they don't. They spend more than they need to. They buy, whether it's material items or, even certain things. You could be going out to eat every night as opposed to making your own food. A lot of people's expenses are way out of control. So get your income up and get it stable, and then learn how to budget and stick to that budget. After that, build an emergency fund. So he said, stop me if this sounds familiar. And I think this is funny because we literally just had to pay for some more repairs for my wife's van. And it says, Well, sure, this month my budget was thrown off, but that wasn't my fault. I got hit with that unexpected car repair. Fill in the blank there. And what he says is unforeseen problems are the norm. That's what we can expect. So don't don't say that, oh man, I didn't know that this was going to happen, because sure, it might not be a car repair, but it's going to be, yeah, a medical bill the next month, and then it's going to be something else, and it's going to be something else. So make sure you build up that emergency fund, um, at least $1,000 in the bank right now. So every spare penny needs to go into that savings account. This needs to be something easily accessible as well. And if you do dip into your actual emergency fund, well, you need to replenish that as soon as you can. This is for true emergencies, not for, hey, this item was on sale for Black Friday or Cyber Monday. Number three, pay off unsecured debts. Right now, the average American has nearly $6,000 in credit card debt. And the average credit card is usually between 19 to 24% interest. So it makes sense to get that paid off as quickly as possible, because even if you are investing in the stock market, um, and you're able to get a 12% return, well, you might be looking at half of what you're paying in interest to the credit card company. So after you reach your $1,000 emergency fund, pay off all unsecured debt balances before continuing to grow your emergency fund. So I do like that he puts that in there, because that is actually going to be a continuation of both Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman, where they say, depending on what your job situation is, if you're a W-2 employee, maybe you only do 6 months for emergency fund. Maybe you're a 1099 and your income is very spotty. Maybe you do 12 months. But if you basically the first step is to make sure that you're paying off all of your credit cards, any unsecured debts, and then basically tackle those debts as quickly as possible. And you could do the snowball method, where you start with the smallest one first, knock that out. So say you have 5 credit cards, or let's just say 3 to make it easier. One's at $500 balance, one's at a $2,000 balance, and the other one's at a $3,000 balance. Pay that $500 one off first, and then use any extra money that you're going to start paying off those other ones, while still paying the minimum balance that you are required to, or that you need to. And then from there, work on building that nest egg, or those emergency savings. Then max out your contributions, and basically what he says is, yes, you are ready to start investing once you've paid off all of your unsecured debts and you have your emergency fund, but he just says not necessarily in real estate. So I am a real estate agent, but we do invest in the stock market as well. My wife also has a 403B. She's a teacher. So if your employer matches or offers matching contributions, take it, because basically you are doubling your money on whatever amount they will match up to. So at least do that, and then you could still invest more if you want to, or if you want to start setting money aside for your down payment and all those additional costs that we talked about in the beginning, then you could do that. After this, set long-term goals, because really what you need to do is not just, okay, I've done steps 1 through 4, I'm going to buy the first thing that looks like a deal to me in real estate. You need to know what your long-term goals are. Are you trying to retire at 65, at 55, at 40, like at 30? Where are you trying to retire? Not where physically, although that's part of it as well, but at what age do you want to retire? How much income do you need to reach financial independence? Do you want that to come in the form of real estate versus stocks? And something to keep in mind, so if you don't have a financial advisor, but you may want to talk with a financial advisor because you can't touch certain things without getting penalized until certain ages as well. So whether you're 55 and a half, 59 and a half, whatever the age is, um, you know, you may have a bunch of money in a Roth IRA or in a 401k, but if you can't touch it without being penalized, then that kind of defeats the purpose. So, those are things that you'll want to take into consideration as well. And then you have to think about, as far as those long-term goals, what kind of properties do you want? What are the pros and cons of each property? So, single family houses, for example, if you're looking to buy a single family house to use as a rental property, just know that there's way more competition out there because single family rentals are primarily used as primary residences for most of America. Obviously, there are mom and pop landlords, there are other landlords that buy properties, or maybe they bought it and they were living in it at first and turned it into a rental. But just keep in mind, if you're trying to make certain numbers work, say you want to hit the 1% rule and you're trying to buy a single family house, it might be a little harder because while you're looking at this as an investment, so you're running numbers, you're being much more cold and calculated. Most people are buying with their heart. So they're buying with their emotions. They walk into the place, they love it because it's everything they dreamed of. They're willing to pay more than you are as an investor. But that being said, say you keep it, when you go to sell it, you're also going to have a much larger buyer pool and would probably get a pretty penny for it. As opposed to looking at small multi like a 2 to 4 unit. You know, there's going to be only investors that are looking at that, and honestly, a 2 to 4 unit, a lot of the times you're not looking at institutional investors, you're looking at other small time investors too. Things that I keep in mind for multifamily like that are, okay, is it a top down unit or is it, or like an up down unit, or is it a side by side? Like, I love side by side properties instead of up down units because then you don't have people complaining that the neighbor was stomping around at 2 a.m. and they couldn't go to sleep. I also prefer, so one of our rental properties is a side by side brick duplex, and they each have their own garage, they each have their own driveway. That way, you're not getting into a situation where, oh, this person's not moving their car, or, this person's not home and I can't get in, blah, blah, blah. This person blocked me in the garage. And I also prefer non-shared basements because that way they have their own hot water tanks, and they're completely separate. They have their own electric meters, they have their own furnaces, they have their own laundry space. That way you don't have, somebody who's claiming, oh, that person stole my underwear or anything like that. There's pros and cons to everything. So make sure that you're thinking these through before just jumping into real estate investing. Consider passive investing as you save funds, just because it does take a long time sometimes to save up that first X amount of dollars to buy an investment property. So you may want to consider other areas to put that money as opposed to just keeping it in a savings account, which isn't really earning you any money. And then lastly, learning the fundamentals before you invest. Go on websites like this, like BiggerPockets. Talk with other rental property investors. You could go to real estate meetups. There's a lot of meetups, especially in the Cleveland area, and talk with people about where they went wrong, what they would do differently. If you need to pay somebody, you can always pay, a mentor or anything like that, a coach. Be careful with what you're paying them, how much you're paying them, just because you want to make sure that they are actually who they say they are, and they're making money in real estate and not just making money selling mentorships and coaching programs. And then, lastly, he just said, make sure that when you think you have enough money to start investing, keep saving, and make sure that when you're running numbers, you are conservative in your underwriting. So if you're planning on getting a heavily distressed property and it needs a heavy remodel, and you're going to place a tenant, you're going to do the BRRRR method. You're going to buy, renovate, rent it out, refinance, and then try to pull out that money when you refinance and repeat. Well, if you're running your numbers based on an ARV or after repair value at 20% higher than what it's actually worth, then you're going to get screwed when you go to refinance that. So make sure that you are, you have enough money and that you're conservative in your underwriting, because just like he says here, in real estate, things will always cost more than you think, and repairs will always take longer than you expect. So you need to budget for those inevitable bumps in the road or scramble later when they happen. So the last thing I'll keep you with, or leave you with, I should say, is that I heard a phrase called slack. So, keeping slack in the line. And basically the whole point of it is you want to make sure that you're not stretched out to the max where there's no slack in the line for anything to go wrong. You want to have a little bit of slack in the line, and this is with everything. It's with time, it's with money, and that goes with investing here as well. So I am a real estate agent in the Cleveland, Ohio area. I'm actually based in Strongsville, and my office is out of Medina, Ohio. So if you have any questions on investing, or if you want to invest in Northeast Ohio, I would be happy to talk with you about it. Feel free to leave a comment below, or you could always just Google my name and you'll find my information there. Thank you again, and have a great day.